All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make Videos That Wow. I am your host for today. My name is Casey Sider. I'm with the TechSmith Customer Success Team, and I am very happy to welcome you all today. So today we will be focusing on some use cases with Camtasia and Snagit, doing some improvements for your videos. I'm joined alongside our host and master trainer, Jason Vlad. Jason, did you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jason. Thanks for having me, Casey. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you, Jason. And we're joined by Scott Fisher, one of our sales managers, and the rest of the TechSmith team. They're going to be in there in chat answering all the questions that you guys have. Before we jump into any details, the first thing that I want to say is I wanted to plug my own personal team, the customer success team. So we have a dedicated team of individuals here at TechSmith that are here to help any kind of university or institution onboard, train, and consult with you or all of your users. So we're talking personalized trainings, we're talking one-on-one consultations, roundtables. We offer it all, and there is no cost to those features. So if you are interested, go ahead and respond to customer success at techsmith.com. If Scott, you could pop that into chat for me here. Okay, perfect. So now that that's been said, let's go ahead and jump into our agenda. Jason will be covering this live in just a second, but we're going to be focusing on some basic ways to improve a video. Callouts, behaviors, some of those you might be familiar with, but we're going to start simple and build on the knowledge from there. So even if you've already experimented with callouts in Camtasia, you're still in the right place because you might learn a thing or two from our master trainer, Jason, showing us the ropes here. Then we'll keep moving forward. We're going to talk about assets, branding, cursor effects, templates, all kinds of things where we even have a quick segment at the end talking about video in Snagit. So the goal for today, please, we're going to be covering quite a bit. So try to take away one or two tips and run with them. Jason's going to be covering a lot of stuff. So don't try to do everything at once. Camtasia can be kind of there's a learning curve to it, right? So take it slow, try to jump onto one or two tips that Jason talks about today that you really like, and just focus on that. A few other upkeep notes before we get started is that, yes, we are recording this session. That will be the #1 question in chat. And yes, we can confirm this session will be recorded and you will all receive a copy of it within about 24 hours. And then I do want to talk about the chat section. So we do have a chat section set up, and that is more for your color commentary. If you like something, if you think something looks cool, go ahead and say, wow, that looks awesome in chat. But if you have a technical question, go ahead and put that in the Q&A. You can open up a question there, and me and our tech smithies here will be answering those questions live. And if a question is pertinent in the Q&A, we will bring that up to Jason about midway through the presentation, and there is a dedicated Q&A at the end. So for actual technical questions, go ahead and pop that into the Q&A. For any kind of colorful commentary, go ahead and put that in chat. Otherwise, Jason, I think we're all set here. Keep calm, it is demo time. Let me hand it over to you and take it away, sir.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Casey, and welcome to everybody to our webinar. So I want to just put this out there as I'm looking at the people coming into the chat. I am a former classroom educator myself, so seeing all these universities and all these roles, it's warming my heart. So hello to all and welcome in. So we are going to talk about, like Casey said, making videos that wow. One thing I want to start with is inside of Camtasia, which we are looking at right now. This is the Camtasia editor. And like Casey said, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, you get out of Camtasia what you put into it. Meaning if you want to get a real basic screen recording with some simple interaction of your voice and the screen, you can call that good, or you can enhance it in some of the ways we're going to share today. So first and foremost, we're going to do this little bit of the beginning, cooking style. Cooking style, because I already have a recording here inside of Camtasia. And what this is a basic screen recording of me, my webcam, and the screen telling people how to add someone to this progress tracking board. This is kind of a mock-up website that we use for our training sessions. So the goal of this video, and I want you to take that into consideration because we're going to play this video. It's about 59 seconds long. The goal of this video is to teach someone how to add an additional person to a progress tracking board. And I want you to think about that because at the end of the video, I'll simply ask you to put in the chat, yes or no. Did that video meet its goal? And one thing we also have to put, now we've been living in this world the last couple of years with Zoom meetings and whatnot. Camtasia is a powerful tool, and video that plays back over Zoom sometimes can get slightly delayed or might appear a little choppy. Rest assured, when you're doing your video inside of Camtasia, that will not be the case. It just may be some artifacts of Zoom. So I'm going to play this video back and just think about whether or not this video met the goal of teaching someone how to add a person to a progress tracking board. And Casey, as I'm playing this, if you can just give me a thumbs up that you're hearing its audio. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason, and I'm here to show you how easy it is to add a new collaborator to our progress tracking board. First, at the top of the screen, locate the gray plus button and click it. This will show you the current listing of members on the board and the ability for you to add a new member. To do so, we're going to click on the plus at the bottom of the list. We're going to make sure we put in the name of our new member, their email, and which role we want them to fulfill. In this case, we'll choose follower. Then, you know what, I'm not going to make you watch the whole video. That's the sense of it. It is the recording of the screen and a step-by-step process by which you would add someone to the progress tracking board. So based on the 31 seconds of the video you've seen in the chat, just tell me, yes, this met its goal of teaching someone how to do this, or no, it didn't. See, I feel proud because you're all saying yes. Great, and I appreciate that. So you could, at this point, if you so chose, send this video out, share it with your colleagues, share it with your students, share it with whomever is going to consume this content, and call it good. That video is done. But let's be honest, Casey, there's no pizzazz to this video, right? There's no
pretty cut and
endearing
dry. Yep.
quality. Yeah, I mean... So what we want to talk about today is how you can utilize tool sets within Camtasia to add a little bit more, the term we like to call it is rewatchability, right? We want videos that you want to consume, mainly because if you make a video that you as the content creator enjoy making and enjoy watching, then there's a really good chance that people consuming this video will also enjoy watching it, will lean on you or your team as the subject matter experts, the content creators, and they'll come to expect videos of that style from you. So let's show you a couple easy ways to start with that. And the first one feels a little pompous, but I do this. When I record with Camtasia, I usually have my webcam on. And the reason I have my webcam on is because I want to show people that I am not a faceless robot, that I am an actual human being teaching you something so that we create that rapport, even though we're not having an actual conversation. So instead of having my video sitting down in the bottom right-hand corner, I tend to make myself full screen. And I'm talking like full screen. That's me.
Okay. Wow. Okay. You weren't joking. Sure.
I am not joking. Full screen. Casey, we're not messing around here. Absolute full screen. So we'll make sure that we're stretched out all the way. And then we have some flexibility within Camtasia. So the video starts with me introducing myself, and then we talk about the board. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason, and I'm here to show you how easy it is to add a new collaborator to our progress tracking board. At this moment, 7 seconds in, I should be done. I should no longer have to be a part of this video in this capacity. So we're going to add some animation and some movement to my webcam. We're going to start by going over to the Animations tool on the left-hand side of the screen. And we're going to choose not zoom and pan quite yet. We're going to choose Animations. And inside here, you've got a series of animations that are pre-built. Changing of opacity, scaling to fit, a lot of fancy terms. But to be honest, from day one, I've always leaned on this custom animation. And that's because if we teach you how to use this animation, you can actually do all of these things plus thousands more. So to do this, we're going to drag this custom animation down onto my timeline, right onto my webcam video. And I know it's the webcam media because there's my picture down there on the left. And when we do that, we see that there is an arrow that's been added to the timeline. This is, in technical movie terms, a keyframe. But in Camtasia terms, it's an animation arrow. The way an animation arrow works is this. When the playhead hits the tail of it, the animation begins. And then however long that arrow is, the duration of that arrow says how long, how fast something is happening in an animation. And then when it hits the head of the arrow, it stops the animation. As we see, nothing's happening when I'm playing this playhead over it because this is customized and we need to give it some parameters, some characteristics, so to speak. So here's how we do it. We double click on the head of the arrow, which snaps the playhead right to the end so that we are absolutely at the end point of that. And then I can make some subtle adjustments to my webcam. The first thing I'm going to do, Casey, this is my new favorite thing, by the way, is I'm going to use the cropping tool up here at the top of the screen. And I'm going to reduce my camera from its wide screen view of the webcam. And I'm going to make it more square-like. It's not a perfect square, but it's more square-like. Okay. And then I'm going to add a visual effect over here from the left in Camtasia. I'm going to use one that's called corner rounding, which is found right here. To add that, I simply click it and drag it down onto the timeline so that it's on the piece of media that I want to affect. Now, there are some things in Camtasia when you add them, one of them happens to be corner rounding, that when you add it, it applies it to the entire piece of media. I actually don't want it to happen the whole time. I only want it to happen during that animation. So I'm going to drag the start of that corner rounding here to the middle of that animation. Casey, this is where I'm going to need some feedback from you. Corner rounding effect is pretty easy to manipulate. When I've added the corner rounding, I can control the radius over here on the side. So I could make this, that hole punch that everybody likes, that nice circular hole punch.
Yeah.
I can also choose the corners. I'm kind of like I'm not a designer at all. I'm an instructional designer, but I'm not a graphic designer.
Sure.
I like to turn off one of the corners and create this like teardrop effect.
Okay.
It's not quite a circle. It's just something a little visually different.
Yep.
I don't know if you're a fan or not, or if we wanted to toggle off opposite corner. So now it's a pseudo ellipse. I don't know. There's this flexibility inside.
Yeah.
You want to try this one? Okay, cool.
Let's try that one. That looks interesting. And while you're doing this, Jason, can I also just point out the little yellow line beneath the video clip that we have? That's a really interesting feature. And I think a lot of people that don't know that with a lot of the Camtasia features, you can control the duration of them as well by just double clicking on the bottom of the actual screen recording and controlling that little yellow bar. And that's going to control the duration of the effect itself. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Correct. No, that's absolutely correct. This is why Casey and I are here today. We want to definitely share, because while there's lots of different ways to use Camtasia, I will guarantee that if Casey and I made the same video separately, they would look completely different, yet achieve the exact same goal. That's important to note. All right, so we're going to do one more thing. I am still in the way here. I'm going to double click on the end of that animation arrow, and I'm going to grab my recording, and I'm going to resize myself here. And I'm going to drag myself down to the corner and maybe put myself maybe about here, because I know it's going to be on my screen. So now that I am not obstructing that view. So by adding that animation arrow, by cropping the media, by adding corner rounding, and then the movement, we now have created a video that looks like this. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason, and I'm here to show you how easy it is to add a new collaborator to our progress tracking board. That's not bad. It's not bad.
Now, Jason, here's a question for you. So that minimization happens so quick, right? That was a very speedy minimize to the corner. Could I slow that down if I wanted to? Like, could I just do a little bit slower if I wanted? Can I control it, I guess?
You absolutely can. And that's where the duration of, or the length of that animation arrow comes into play, Casey. If I click on this arrow down here on the timeline, I can drag out either end of it to make it longer or shorter, faster or slower. So the longer the arrow is, that's the longer of the duration that it takes for the animation to happen. So if we play this back to our progress tracking board, that's not as shock value, right? Like before it was too fast. It was a little bit too much.
A little abrupt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. There is something else we've added to Camtasia that I will not do an animation of my webcam without. And that is this one. It's called motion blur. As I move the playhead, you'll notice that my image stays very crisp and clean, but it's real obvious that that movement is happening to the corner. If we click and drag motion blur onto that animation as well, or onto that piece of media, Now, as it goes down there, there's a little bit of blurring that happens. And what that is that motion blur, so that gives it the sense of movement as it moves to the
New
corner.
collaborator to our progress tracking board,
which plays well with a little bit faster. But so you can make subtle adjustments to your heart's content to make sure that the video, the end result, looks the way it does. So we've made what I would call a couple of edits, right? We've added an animation. We basically have moved the webcam out of the way. And I am no longer a fan of this. I'm making it all round. So now that when it comes to the corner, it just finishes there in that nice little hole punch. At this point,
I'll just point out, sorry to interrupt you, Jason, but I'll just point out that for educators who want to do a little picture-in-picture that's a little bit different than then just the little boxy picture-in-picture that you have, put those rounded corners on there, get a nice spherical shape to it. Just adds a little bit of extra pizzazz, right, to the video, so it's not the same video you've seen over and over again, right?
Absolutely. And if we have time at the end, remind me, Casey, we can even get a little bit more fancy with the inclusion of media mats, so we can change the shape of it even past this. So we'll talk about that as well. So we've made this adjustment. Now the video plays on to talk about certain sections of the screen.
First, at the top of the screen, locate the gray plus button and click it.
So here at TechSmith, we like to say that the hero of your story, the hero of your video, tends to be your cursor, your mouse, your pointer. And in this case, the pointer is here, and it is part of the recording that was captured when I recorded with Camtasia. If I have my screen recording, which is the other piece of media down here at the bottom, selected, over to the right in the properties panel, I actually can click on the cursor controls and I can make some adjustments to it. Now, a cursor, when you're normally using it, looks to be about this size. In real life, it's about 100% scale to this size. When you record it inside of Camtasia, we bring it in at 225%. So it's a little bit bigger, a little bit easier to see. Casey, I'm not kidding. In the recent tutorials I've made, I make it 500%. And I was so against this. I was so against this until this fall. But now this cursor is going to help me tell my story even better because your eye is drawn to it, right? Yep. So when the video
and also consider as well, like, what's your target audience here, right? So if your video has, like, if it's a process with multiple clicks that you're trying to show off, well, if where you are clicking is important, then it probably makes sense to make that cursor bigger. In other videos, maybe it's not relevant, but here in this example, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So combining the size of that cursor, we're also going to
locate the gray plus button.
We're going to draw attention to the point of the screen where the cursor is pointing, which in this case is the section up here at the top with this gray plus button. So to draw attention there, we are going to make sure we select that recording media. We're going to go back over to our animations. And instead of the animations this time, we are going to use zoom and pan. Now I am on the newest version of Camtasia 2022 for Windows. So if you're using a Mac, it's going to be slightly different. But what we're going to do is we're going to choose zoom and pan. We're going to make sure the media that we want to affect, which in this case is the screen recording, is selected. And then all we need to do over here is click and drag the focus to where we want it to be. So just like this, we have added an animation that zooms in to the upper section of our screen. And for some reason, my animation arrow is not showing up on my timeline. That's interesting, but we're okay. We still have the animation that's showing up. So now we have drawn attention to that section of the screen.
Locate the gray plus button and click it. This will show you the current listing of members on the board and the ability for you to add a new member.
Now, one thing that I do want to point out about zoom and pan is, let's say zoom and pan is a great way to quote unquote fix a video that might have a mistake in it. So let's say, like here, like, what are we showing off? It's basically a website or a portal that that we're tinkering with. Sometimes I may have, forgot and I didn't capture the whole screen when I was actually recording this in Camtasia. So might be some wasted space around the edges, right? If you get into those kind of scenarios, you don't necessarily have to re-record the whole thing. Just use zoom and pan and just zoom into the relevant sections, and all that wasted space is now immediately gone. So you just don't have to worry about it.
It's true. So once we've drawn attention to this part of the screen, we zoom up in here, we start talking about different aspects of the screen interface, the plus button, where to click. So this is where you can lean on some of the basic functionality of Camtasia. For example, if we play this back
and click it. This will show you the current listing of members on the board and the ability for you to add a new member.
We've added so many different things inside of Camtasia, and some of them are really simple to use. For example, when I say click it,
gray plus button and click it.
So right about here is where that clicking happens. I could go into my library, the Camtasia 2022 library, which comes by default and is full of royalty-free assets, including graphics and musics and animations and all kinds of amazingness. One of the things we have in here is the ability to do animations and click effects. So there's so many different ones, like this click gesture here. Let's grab this one here. I'm going to add this green click effect, Casey, and I'm going to put it right on the spot where I'm clicking. So now this animation, which I dragged onto the screen, and it also added it to our timeline, looks like this.
Plus button and click it.
Oof, this will show you the current listing.
Wow, that's sharp.
It's fun, right? It's
yeah,
just
it is fun. I like that.
It's a little bit. We're going to shorten it up here a little bit because it draws attention to show what a click looks like, right? So we have the ability to add some feature sets like that. We can also come over to our annotations tool, which is actually one of the things Camtasia is known for. If you've ever seen a video with an arrow that pops on the screen or a call out speech bubble, those are the kinds of things that Camtasia is known for. So we can add those to our video as well. At a certain point, I start talking about this plus button. And this is where, Casey, you and I, we got to make a decision. We just talked about the cursor being the star of the show and the hero of our story.
Yep.
We don't always have to have the cursor. We can lean on other tools. So at this point, should we fade that thing out?
Yes, please. Let's fade it out.
All
Let's
right.
see what else we can tinker with here.
Sounds great. So we've clicked on the screen, and now it's time for our cursor to step away because we're going to use some other tools inside of Camtasia. It could not be easier to do that. First, we select our screen recording because that's where the recording metadata has captured our cursor. We're going to add a custom animation, which we've already done before, right? We click and we drag it down onto the piece of media that we want to affect. And I'm going to line mine up so that it happens, this animation that I'm going to do happens right at the end of that cool green click effect. And then what we're going to do is go back over, and instead of having the opacity of 100% of our cursor, we're going to drop it to 0. So during that animation arrow, it's going to fade our cursor out. So now we need to rely on a few other things to tell our story, but that's what makes it fun.
And the ability for you to add a new member. To do so, we're going to click on the plus at the bottom of the list.
We're going to click on the plus at the bottom of the list. So at this point, what I would like to do is I'd like to go to my annotations, and I'm going to use a pretty simple arrow callout. An arrow callout like this one, this red arrow. If I bring it in here, I can bring it onto my screen and point it at that plus button. And oh my gosh, is this thing comically oversized for what I need? No problem. I can select it and go over to my properties panel, and I can change its scale to change its size. I can also adjust the size and shape of it by using any of the radial buttons here on it. It also has the ability to have text in it. For this particular video, I'm not going to worry about text. So I'm going to double click on the text itself, hit delete, and now I've got a pretty nice red arrow. That red doesn't really fit with the theme of my video, though. There's a lot of other like pastel colors. Not to worry. When you select a piece of media, regardless of what it is on your timeline, the properties panel on the right-hand side of your screen changes dynamically so that you can make adjustments to the piece of media that's been selected based on what it is. In this case, when I select this callout, there's a tab at the top that's specifically about the properties of the callout itself. So when I select it, not only do I have the opportunity to pick different styles, I can apply a pre-built color theme if I happen to have colorways like we here at TechSmith have, Camtasia colors, Snagit colors, and all those sorts of things. Or I can do what I believe is the best tool inside of Camtasia when it comes to color. Instead of red, I'm going to use this eyedropper tool. And I'm just going to pick another color that's on the screen. I think maybe this purple one. And when I click on the purple, my arrow is now purple. And now there's some continuity, right? I didn't have to go look for the color code. I didn't have to go to our design team. I'm like, no, I'm just going to steal this purple color. And now this arrow shows up on the screen and it's purple. But it really, really shows up on the screen. Let me show you what that means.
Remember, to do so, we're going to click on the plus at the bottom of the list.
So it really pops on the screen, and there's lots of different ways I could bring that arrow in. I could fade it in. I could add a behavior. I could manually animate it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a behavior. So a behavior is built into Camtasia as well. The behaviors are found on the over here on the left-hand side. And what behaviors are, it's a combination of transition and animation all together, where it happens by just clicking and dragging and applying it right to your piece of media. There's 9 of them that are pre-built, and then you can modify any of them and save them later. I actually built one out of our Spring Up version, or the pop-up version. I have one that's called Realty Sign. So if you've ever bought a house, sold a house, driven past, and you know how those signs hang in the front yards that say, this house is for sale. I just love that effect. So I'm going to click on this and drag it onto my call out. So now instead of the arrow just popping up on the screen, it's going to drop down from the top, swing into place, and then it's going to disappear. And I need it to disappear sooner because the screen is going to change. So I can simply adjust the length of time that's on the screen. And let's see how that looks.
Oh, we're going to click on the plus at the bottom of the list.
A little fast. Maybe we'll have it hang out just an extra second or here. So, Casey. And then we run into a situation. I'm going to do one more animation, and then we're going to stop for questions at this moment because we're already, oh my gosh, we're already halfway through today. You gotta be kidding me. I have fun when I'm in Camtasia, right? So when I have that button clicked, we've noticed that this part of the screen, which is important to us, is actually off the screen a little bit. It is not fully visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another animation, but we're going to use one that we've already got built into Camtasia, which is that zoom and pan effect. First, we're going to click on the screen recording, which is that bottom one. We'll go back over to animations to the zoom and pan feature. And you'll see that it's still zoomed in to where we made that original animation at the beginning of the session, which was this one that had zoomed all the way in. So what we're going to do is subtly
I just had one point that I wanted to make right before what you're about to do is so this confused me quite a bit when I was first getting started with Camtasia. But the idea is with the zoom and pan, right? Once you zoom in, Camtasia will just keep that zoomed in forever unless you specifically tell Camtasia to zoom out at a certain point. That concept just blew my mind when I was first getting started, but always remember, like many times you might not have to zoom out at all, but if you want to change, once it's zoomed in, it's going to be fixed like that forever until you tell Camtasia to do something different, which is what Jason is about to do. Thank you, Jason.
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. So we can pan by just grabbing this section and moving it to another focus point. Or if we wanted to go all the way back to that full screen, there is a button here that says scale to fit. This is my favorite button because it takes me right back to the beginning. I don't have to do any math. I don't have to guess. It perfectly fits that screen. So when we add that animation in,
the plus at the bottom of the list, we're going to make sure we put in the name of our new member, their email, and which role we want them to fulfill. In this case, we'll choose follower. Then we'll click the add button, and they will show up in our list of managed members. And then, so once again, we're at a point in the video where when we click the add, we're not seeing the whole screen. So this would be an opportunity to click scale to fit maybe, and drag ourselves all the way back out to that full screen. So Casey, I'm going to pause for a second because we've done a lot of small but impactful edits to our video. We animated our webcam down into the corner by adding motion blur and rounding the corners. We then came over here and zoomed into the screen. We added a click effect with our cursor. We faded the cursor out. We then added a call out onto the screen. We faded that one out. We added it with a behavior, and we panned over, and then it's going to go back to full screen at this point. Something might be up with my particular version of Camtasia right now. I run a lot of test behind the scene ones, so something might be a little wonky, but that's okay.
Okay.
But normally there would be arrows showing up for those spots. So I'm going to take a pause, and we can go to you or any of the team that has provided questions, and maybe Casey, you're willing to share a couple with me.
Yeah, actually, so I think Scott was handling most of the questions here in chat. Scott, what do you got for us here?
Yes, hello, this is Scott here. We have a few good ones that I think we should address for everybody in the webinar. So to start out, Brian let us know that he doesn't typically record himself in tutorials like this. So he's wondering how Camtasia brought in the video on 2 separate tracks. What was the reason for that?
Sure. So when you initiate a recording with Camtasia, that looks like this. We would click our record button, and the recording button comes in, and I've got my webcam turned on in Zoom, so I'm going to turn that off. You get this recording window right here, and the recording allows you to make a couple of quick questions, answer a couple quick questions. One is, what do I want people to be able to see, which is, what am I recording? Is it my screen? Is it a dragged out region of my screen? We can choose which one you want here. Typically, I would suggest if you're newer to Camtasia, you just record full screen because it gives you the most flexibility later on. You then answer the question, do I want people to be able to see me? This is when you would toggle on your webcam. So, hi, this is live inside of Camtasia. This is what would record your screen, or record your screen and then record your webcam if you wanted to. I typically ask people to go ahead and record their webcam, even if they think they're going to use it in their video, because it's better to have it and decide not to use it than to really wish you had it and not have recorded it, which we've all been there. So what do I want people to be able to see? Can they see me? And the third one, which is almost the most important thing, which is, can they hear you? If you're going to be doing voiceover, instruction, giving directions, student feedback, any of those kinds of things that you're going to use Camtasia to capture, you want to toggle on your microphone, make sure your microphone is the right one is selected. I happen to have a few of them plugged into my computer, but this is the one that's picking up this microphone. You should be hearing it, and you can see the audio meter jumping up and down. And then the last option is system audio. This is if you think you're going to be recording a video that has sound that it would normally come from your computer, something that would come out of the speakers. So when you record this like this into Camtasia, what's going to happen is it will bring in your recording in 2 tracks. One track is going to be your screen recording. The other track will be your webcam and your audio built together, because it's been recording and keeping your voice and your mouth in sync. If you happen to record with Camtasia without your webcam, but you still recorded your screen and your voice, the second track wouldn't be there, but the voice, the waveform, this audio recording of your voice would be merged with your screen recording instead. So I hope that answers Brian's question. If he has a follow-up, please let me know. What else have we got, Scott?
Thanks, Jason. Yep. And Robin is wondering, can we create custom behaviors?
Scott, it's okay. I see another one up there. Casey, it looks like Robin's asking, can we create custom behaviors? The answer to that question is, yeah, kind of.
Yep.
So the behavior that I applied to this arrow was based on a behavior that I already had in place. So if we wanted to, let's say, add a behavior to my webcam, let's say we wanted to do this sliding behavior. I click on it, I drag it down onto the piece of media. So now when the video starts, it's going to whip me over. It's going to pulse in and out, which is just, I don't like the pulsing, but that's okay. When you have a piece of media selected that has the behavior assigned to it, which shows up over here, because remember, the properties panel changes dynamically, you have the behaviors parameters. You have an in behavior, which is what happens when the behavior comes onto the screen, a during behavior, which is what happens while it's on the screen, and then an out behavior, which is what happens when it leaves. If I make any changes to this, like the in behavior, it looked okay. The during, while it's on the screen, I don't want it doing anything, so I'm just going to select none. And then the out behavior is to ease out to the right. So at the very end of our video, I should fly out to the side, just like that.
If I like the behavior, the way that looks, and I don't want to recreate that every time, all I need to do is click on this little plus button to the right of the behavior. And when I click on it, it gives me an opportunity to name it. It's named sliding because that's the behavior it was. So I'm going to call this webcam slide. I can name it basically whatever I want. And of course, I should probably type it correctly. And when I hit OK, it adds that behavior that I created custom-wise to my behaviors list. And it adds this little like person icon here at the bottom, little avatar. So I can see which ones that I have created that are not part of the regular library. And if I'm going to use it a lot, I can click on the little star button in the upper right-hand corner, which adds it to my favorites menu. And then I don't have to search for all my favorite tools later on because it's one that I've created. Scott, do we have you back?
Yes, and you know what, Jason? It's vitally important.
You're talking, you are muted, just to let you know, but that's okay. I think we actually lost. No, Scott's there.
I think we have some audio issues.
Let's go on. Is there anything else you want to show with this, Casey, before we move on to the next little section?
So just one question here.
Oh, you know what?
I'm guessing Jason does not have.
Scott was talking.
Yeah.
And I lost you guys. Stand by. I apologize. That's me.
No worries.
We're picking you up loud and clear.
There you go. How silly was that? I think my headphones just died. So we'll switch to the video. That's why I've got multiple ones. We're good. I can hear you guys now. Thank you. So, sorry. Scott, was there any other questions that we can?
Yeah, Jason, we're back. Yes. So from Steve, can formatting one video be applied to multiple other videos?
Formatting one video be applied. So this is meaning if you create a video and you want to have another video look exactly the same. Is that kind of what we're thinking that question is?
Yep, you add some effects or animations to one. Can we kind of import those into another video somehow?
So yes, and that is done in a way that is called creating a template. So a template inside of Camtasia is where, let's pretend this video is done. It's not. I personally want to do some more editing, but there's an adage we live here by at TechSmith, which is probably a lot of yours as well. Do you need your video to be perfect, or do you need it by Tuesday? And more often than not, we need our videos by Tuesday. So you can take the editing all the way to the final nth degree, or you can make a couple small changes. In order to turn a video into a template, what you would do is take your video at the state it's in, go to File, Save Project as Template. And when you do that, it gives you an opportunity to name it. So we'll call this Progress Board. Okay. And when I hit OK, it creates a template so that when I open up Camtasia later on, I can go to File and choose to do a new project from template, which is up here at the top. And it brings up my template manager, which includes the template I just built. So now I could take a recording and literally drag it into place and replace the one I already had in there. You can also do things with placeholders and create animations and all that. We have tutorials on all this. That one's a little bit more than we have time to show today, but templates are possible, and we can definitely follow up with, if you go to techsmith.com to our support area, there's a whole series of tutorials. As a matter of fact, if you're in Camtasia and you ever feel a little stuck, if you go to the help menu and choose video tutorials, it'll take you right to our tutorial webpage on techsmith.com. In fact, it takes you right to the Camtasia ones. And I know there's a template one because I built it. How to use one, how to create one, all those are in here as well. Cool. All right, so I think we'll stop questions for right now and we'll save a little bit of time at the end if we can. Casey, is there any other visual effects you want to make sure we talk about? Because there's a lot of them inside of Camtasia. There's the ability to blur. There's the ability to add darkened areas. There's cursor effects. There's all kinds of things, but I want to make sure we're respectful of all the stuff we want to share today.
That is a great question. Let me just make sure. I just want to double check everything. So we've talked about templates. We haven't talked about track mats yet, but that might be a little bit advanced. I did really want to talk about assets that we have in the libraries. Could you maybe show us an example or two of what an asset looks like?
Yeah, so definitely we started with one of the assets, which was this click effect earlier on, but there is so much that comes in the Camtasia 2022 library. And like I said, everything that's in there is royalty free. You can use it right now with your first project and send it on its way. That's actually really important, especially when it comes to stuff like music and backing tracks, because those need licensing and you have to pay extra costs, and that's not something we're interested in doing. So we have these were actually all crafted and authored by David Proctor, a TechSmithy, one of our TechSmithies. He wrote all the music for Camtasia. Inside of the library, there's everything from audio to a whole new series of callouts, including counters. Like, this was a big thing. People wanted on-screen counters, and you can add those to your screen. There's indicators and text. So everything from tile reveals, where if you put something on the screen like this, you have an arrow
show you the current listing of members on the board,
where you can then add text to it and put it into place. Like, that's really hard to read, so I'd maybe pick a different color of the text. You have all those capabilities to modify them. You can resize them, you can change them, you can move them around. And the way the team added these assets to the library was almost in they decided to call it like in a Lego style, Casey, where you can add a couple of effects together and have them work in concert with each other. There is emphasis pass, there's bursts. We have cursor heroes. These are kind of fun, which is ways of taking your cursor and, like I said, making it the star of the show. So this is a way that the cursor might fly in. And as it flies in, it makes a motion around what you're focused on. There's ones where they flip around. There's repeated ones. There's a lot of flashy things. If you're a person who is creating content and for your students or faculty, and you want to put them on, like, let's say a hosting service, like let's say YouTube, we actually have an entire channel kit in here that includes things like subscribe buttons. Right? These are already pre-built in that you can add them. You've probably seen these. If you watch any YouTube videos, you have those all in there.
And this is fantastic for all those educators out there that are also managing their own YouTube channel, which I know there's quite a few of them. Camtasia with the new 2022 library has all of these assets to help you improve your video. Jason, there was one that I just love showing off, which is in the UI kit, if you wouldn't mind toggling down to that.
Sure.
And it is the search field. I see this in videos all the time. The search field. Yep. You're one below it there.
This one.
Yep. There you go. There you go. Where basically you can put in a text and the animation pops up as if it's a Google search, right? With whatever text that you would want. So in terms of creating fun, interesting, interactive videos with, graphics and language that your students would probably understand very easily, very, very helpful. Right below that, there's also the toggle on and off, which I find very helpful when you're showing document processing. If you need to definitely demonstrate switches being off and on, or when something should be toggled and when something shouldn't be toggled. All of these are just nice little fun little bite-size kind of vector graphics that you can throw in there in your video quickly to make them more advanced. One other thing that I did want to mention with assets is you have this whole Camtasia 2022 library, right? It's packed to the brim with all these special features, but keep in mind, if Jason scrolls down and goes to download more assets, what that will do is take you straight to the assets for Camtasia, TechSmith assets for Camtasia website. So there are almost 1 million unique pieces of assets here. I think it's 900,000 plus. About half of them are a premium subscription, so there is a paid element to this, but about half are just free. Oh my goodness, I see 20 million.
We just made a significant upgrade late this summer. Yeah, there's a lot.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Wow, 20 million. Wow.
So thing that Casey's going to point out is there are a lot on here that are free, or we call them starter price, which means they have no cost to you whatsoever. A lot of the ones that are starters are all the ones that are already inside of Camtasia. There is a membership you can also get, correct? A subscription, Casey.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Yep. A yearly subscription that gives you access to all the premium ones. But then there are other starter packs that, you know, anyone right now, you could jump on here and go start downloading the starter ones yourself.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, I just decided to grab this intro title slide here, and I had it sent right to Camtasia. So that means it'll show up here in my downloads folder. Let's see, that was called, I have a lot of them, Black Minimal. I'm not seeing it there. But what happens is you can bring in these pieces from the asset library and add them right into your project right away. So you have access to those visual graphics, intro graphics, music, like stock footage, all those kinds of things come into play as well.
And then we do have a few more questions, Jason, and I know that you did want to show a feature with Snagit, but before we jump into any of that, there is one sneaky little trick that Jason Vlad taught me when I was first getting started with Camtasia, which is highlighting the playhead and moving an entire project over.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you say your piece about this, Jason. I just wanted to make sure that we did talk about it because it's so powerful. So
sure. So this down here on our timeline is the Playhead. The Playhead has a lot of powerful tools associated with it. It'll let you navigate around your video for playback purposes. There's a red and green tab here at the top, which if you drag either one of those to their side, this is called a selection tool. So you can make precise edits. I know someone was asking about editing out. I think Abby asked this question. We hadn't gotten to it yet. Cutting out downtime. Yep. This is the way you do that, is you bring your playhead to the point you want to cut out. You make a selection over that time. You hit the scissors over here, the cut. It cuts out that section and takes everything from the right over to the left. And it is good to go. Then the trick Casey's talking about is this. You know what, Casey? I was inside that group. That's why those animations weren't showing up.
That's what I thought. I should have brought that up. Yeah.
It's a fun day. So here's what Casey's talking about. There is often a time when I have created all these animations, right? We've spent all this time on our video. It's exactly the way I want it. And then I realized, oh, our video just starts. I really would like to have some sort of title sequence. Here's how you can create space. Move your playhead all the way back to the beginning. Hold the Shift key on your keyboard and click and drag that playhead to the right. What that does is it takes all the media to the right of the playhead from that point and shifts it all the way down to the right, keeping all of those timings together.
Yes.
All that hard work you just did, right?
Animations, arrows, everything will be preserved in that way if you just shift it to the right for that. And I already see some people with the head blowing up emoji that didn't realize that. And yes, it makes your life much easier as a Camtasia editor.
So then what we can do is we can take something like one of these titles, drag it down onto the timeline, and make our adjustments to the title itself, because this is a customizable asset. So we can say add person, and we can say a Camtasia film, and hi, Mom. So now we've got this animated intro. And then to get that space retrieved, because now we've got this dead space, all we need to do, this is a good pro tip regardless, is to double click on the media itself. It snaps the playhead back to the very beginning of that media. Once again, hold the Shift button, click and drag the playhead back until they hit each other. And now our video looks like this.
And I see a lot of comments saying that they were just shifting the tracks, like
hi, everyone.
The tracks
my name is Jason,
and I'm left and right. And I was doing the same thing until Jason showed me this one easy trick, and it just has made my editing much more efficient. So thank you for that, Jason.
Did we just become a meme? Learn how to do your video in one simple trick.
I think we did. We did. One last question before we jump into Snagit. This one is from Abby. Abby talks about, and we had mentioned this earlier, having a lot of downtime, like dead air that she needs to cut out because she's very precise. She does what she needs to do and then takes a few moments to, make sure it's correct. Now, the problem is it seems like Abby is adding a lot of special effects and then going back later and kind of cropping some of that stuff out. And I would imagine what it's doing is messing up the parameters of a zoom and pan as an example, or an arrow or something like that.
Yep.
Can you speak to some best practices for that, Jason?
I absolutely can. So what I would do, Abby, and this is I've been making videos for TechSmith for over a decade now. What I do first is I make my recording, and when it comes into Camtasia, the first thing I do besides saving the project is I do what's called wholesale edits or wholesale cuts. I will go through and find where there's dead air, and I will use the selection tool. This is before I've added an animation, before I've added an arrow, before I've done any of that. And I'll get rid of those sections. I will will delete sections where I work from my home office, but when everyone's at home and my door is closed, even though there's a sign that says, hey, I'm recording, my kids still come in and bother me. So I know there's sections of my videos where I need to cut out the intrusion, or I failed to silence my phone, or whatever it is. So I do wholesale edits and cuts at the very beginning, trim out those little sections, kill the dead space. And when I'm comfortable where it is, from the wholesale perspective, then I start adding in the embellishments, the arrows, the call outs, the sound effects, all that sort of stuff. But I do that in that order every time, so that I'm not running into the situation that you're describing, which is where you've put all that time in, but then you make a cut and you lose that animation or you lose that arrow.
Right.
What will happen over time is those dead air spots will stop. You'll just get better and better at making videos, so that when you hit record, your edit needs from that perspective are minimal. It just comes with practice, just like anything else.
Perfect. Scott, any more questions here? Maybe one last question before we jump into Snagit? We have 9 minutes left.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. Real quick from Larry, in Camtasia, can you show keyboard inputs?
So are we talking keyboard shortcuts to manage Camtasia, or are we talking about using the keyboard call strokes like this on the screen, where you can actually say, hey, today I want to show you how to select all. That's done with Control A. I'm not sure which one Larry's asking about, but the keyboard shortcuts, call strokes, are in Annotations. They are the last thing on the tabs across the top, and there are several options, and they are customizable. So if I wanted it to be Control-Shift-H, I have that capability to reinforce the teaching that's happening verbally with another screen follow-up. So different modalities of learning as well. As far as keyboard shortcuts, there are a lot. In fact, we have a couple of handouts that you can use, but if you go into the Edit menu and choose Preferences, there is a tab here in Preferences called Shortcuts, and these are all the different built-in keyboard shortcuts for doing lots of different tool things inside of Camtasia, applying animations, making selections, and nearly every one of them is customizable. So if you have a keyboard combination that you prefer, if maybe you're coming from a different video editor, you can make those changes for yourself right inside of Camtasia.
That's powerful. Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Casey, at this point, we would, like I said, there's lots more we could do to this video, but I hope it gave some ideas as to what is possible with some of the animations. There's lots to explore.
Yeah.
You can always check out our tutorials on that. But I think we also wanted to show, if Camtasia is a big, powerful tool, and we use Camtasia when we're making videos that are going to be a little bit more evergreen, right? If I'm putting a video up on my classroom website, on my wiki, or wherever it's going to live, and it's going to be there for the semester, I'm going to probably make it in Camtasia. I'm going to take the time, I'm going to polish it. But sometimes we need just a quick video that's going to live for a short period of time. I'm sending it to some colleagues. I'm on a board of regents. I'm a chair of a student organization, something like that, or just feedback from my students. That's when we can pull up our other tool, our handy dandy Snagit.
And so we can do a similar process with a similar effect, but much easier and kind of on the fly with Snagit. So AKA, if you want something with a lot of special effects in it, some special tips and tricks to help people grab people's attention, as in if it needs to live for a long time, like what Jason mentioned, for a whole semester, yeah, you probably want to spend a little bit of extra time and make that really pop in Camtasia. But let's say you have a day and you need to get something out, you need to grind this out for a coworker or for what have you. This is a great tool. Jason, go ahead.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we took some still images. These are just regular Snagit images of a different dashboard that we tend to use here at TechSmith for demonstration purposes. Just like a normal image that I've captured in Snagit, I could do all kinds of annotating to this. I could put callouts, arrows, draw attention to things. But what I'm going to do is use a tool called Video from Images. And the way this works is underneath the Create button in the upper left-hand corner of Snagit, we're going to choose Video from Images. And I only have a couple of images sitting on my recents tray here. I could also go into my library, but I'm going to select these 5. And I'm just doing this by clicking on the first one, holding Shift, and clicking the last one. So I multi-selected those images. I go to Create, Video from Images, and I'm now brought into this new recording capability. Okay. First thing I want to tell people is you can, because a lot of people don't realize this, reorder the images down here on your tray. If you want to have them in different orders, you can control that here as well. So I can reposition them depending on how I want to walk through this. It's almost like using a slide deck, so to speak, right? You can reposition the slides as needed, except these times they are just still images. So I'm going to reposition a couple of these here. This recording interface allows you to do a few things. You can record your webcam. So I actually have one webcam on Zoom. So I'm going to choose my other webcam. It might not be perfectly centered, so I apologize. I don't use this one as often.
We're going to get Jason from different angles.
There's
Yeah.
me. Double Jason. You now have Jason Inception. I apologize. Right. You have some control over the aesthetics as well. Like we talked about with the purple arrow in Camtasia, I can actually change the background color of this tool as well. I'm actually going to use the same eyedropper tool. I'm going to pick that teal color so that it now has continuity and matches. And then if you happen to have any tools in Snagit that are part of your favorites, they also will show up here, because what's going to happen is in a second, I'm going to click record. I can choose to have my webcam on or off. In this case, I'm going to just leave it on for this particular recording. When I hit record, everything I say and do is going to be captured by Snagit. So the first question people will ask is, well, why would I choose to use this? Well, just like Casey said, this might be for a quick down and dirty video. When I hit stop on Snagit, the video is already a rendered MP4 ready to be shared, whereas Camtasia has to compile all those awesome pieces of material that you put together and it has to render it out. But let's just do a quick walkthrough video here. Casey, we're going to make a quick video. Here we go. Hey everybody, Jason, just want to show you the new dashboard we're going to use for the sales team. The first thing you want to make sure you do is put in your username and your password. Make sure you're using your network login, because if you don't, you're going to get locked out, and I apologize for that. That'll bring you to the dashboard. A lot of great information. It's going to talk about user activity, calendar of upcoming events. What we want to talk about is this. This is the new reports button that we want to draw attention to. What you're going to do is hit the reports button, and it's going to bring up the options for different styles of reports. So you can choose, pie charts, bar graph. In our case, we're going to use a bar graph. Then you're going to click on the generate report button, and that will give you a final result based on the parameters that you have in the dashboard. Hey, I hope you found this useful. Thanks so much for watching. And when I hit stop, that video drops right back into the Snagit editor, and it is ready to go right away. Picked up the wrong mic. So you're probably hearing very little to no audio because I chose the wrong mic. That's on me. That's okay. What happens when you're running Zoom and Camtasia and Snagit all at the same time. So I apologize. But what's powerful about this, like we said, MP4 ready right away. It's more informal, in my opinion, than Camtasia, although that's totally up to the person creating the content. You can use this video to grab still images. Like if this screenshot here is really important to people, you can hit the PNG button and you now have an image of that part of your video. You can even create an animated GIF right from this video. So if I wanted to show those arrows drawing attention to that, I can select it with the selection tool and choose animated GIF. And now all of a sudden I have an animated GIF built right in Snagit with, like, was it 2 clicks? I think possibly 3 clicks, and it is ready to go and to be shared. So this is now a looping animated GIF that's really a small piece that can be shared on different websites. so on and so forth. Casey and Scott, we like barely scratched the surface on hardly any of these things. There's so much more depth we could go into. So we're going to take a couple of extra minutes, I think, to answer any of the questions. But if you have to go, we understand. I do want to mention, if you leave the webinar, or when you do leave the webinar, you are presented with a survey. It's 4 questions. It will take less than a minute. We read through all of those responses because the last one says, hey, what could we do better? What do you want to learn more about? If you indicate that information and leave your name or your email there, we can reach out to the best of our ability to answer those questions. But I want to make sure that we say thank you for attending. But do we have any other questions, Casey, Scott, that have come in, Snagit related, Camtasia related, that we can answer?
I just want to jump on one here, Jason. So thank you for calling this out. And thank everybody who, sees the power of Snagit and wants to learn more. I do want to clarify, Snagit is a separate software from Camtasia, but
Correct.
With Snagit, I know we have a lot of educators in this webinar, and I just want to say TechSmith offers an education discount on both Camtasia and Snagit. And there's an even further discount if you bundle the 2 pieces together. So if you have any questions on getting a bundle of both Camtasia and Snagit or taking advantage of your discount, please reach out to the education sales team. And Jason, I think you had a final slide too that had our email address just for people to see.
I do. And one thing to note for people as well, there was a couple questions I saw that came in about ADA compliance and whatnot. You can do captions inside of Camtasia, so be aware that that is an option available to you as well. What happened to my presentation? There it is. And this is what Casey and Scott wanted to share.
Yes, perfect. And we'll just do one last plug. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And if you need any help whatsoever, if you have price questions, go ahead and send it to education@techsmith.com. But that's not all. I represent a part of the company called the Customer Success Team, and we are here for you for customized training, customized one-on-one consultations, roundtable sessions with your team. It's all free of charge. We are here to help. So if you have a department, maybe a section in your institution that really wants to up the game in Camtasia or Snagit, go ahead and either email education@techsmith.com or customersuccess@techsmith.com if someone could pop that into chat. And you're probably going to get someone either just like me or me actually that will be reaching out to you to maybe set up some great sessions. So thank you very much.
So quick follow-up to Casey's thing and what Scott said. There is educational bundles. For those who are asking, well, what about those of us in the corporate world? There are Snagit and Camtasia bundles as well, and there's volume pricing. Definitely reach out. Even if you're not in education, I'm pretty sure Scott and Casey will be willing to connect you with whomever you need help with or provide that information as well. So
yes, nonprofits are great. Any kind of institution is great. Any for-profit business, we will help you guys. We're here to help. So yes, absolutely, everyone here.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to end us on here, Jason?
No, I just wanted to say thanks to all the TechSmithies in the back end. That includes Scott and Jacob and Luke and Tracy. Casey, thanks for having us here. Thanks for being a part of this, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy the balance of your day wherever you are. We'll talk to you in the next one.